May God bless these 4 young people who just committed themselves, actually 5, I'm sorry, and reminds me of 4 Hebrews who were captured and taken to Babylon. So my advice to you, young people who just became members of this church, be faithful, remain faithful to God. And our introduction person, Roman Wiens, just told us a few minutes ago that this is place to be. I would just add to it, and the message, and probably this is a hint that will help you to see where I am going as I'm trying to explain to you whether or answer the question, is ecumenical unity biblical? So young people and you as adults as well, I would just say not only that this building is place to be, but the Seventh-day Adventist Church as a movement is a place to be. Keep that in mind. It is a place to be as long as this world exists. As a historian at Andrews University, my major interest is in modern history, which includes modern Christianity. But because of the needs of the university, I had to spend additional time to educate myself and therefore teach world history for the survey courses that we teach at the university. It is, and I'm teaching 35 plus years. So the material that you will hear today is pretty much based, or it is a byproduct of my career. So, and by the way, since I was teaching world history, I can tell, and learned a lot about it, I can say with confidence that the Protestant Reformation of the 16th century and then the following couple of centuries were probably the highest, the most enlightening period in human history. And during the Protestant Reformation, obviously, you heard of Martin Luther and you heard of the struggle between the Protestants and the church. And nobody hardly ever spoke or even talked about this issue of ecumenical unity. So the question is, where does it come from? And there are 2 men who are considered the fathers of the idea of ecumenical unity. One of them is certain John Mott, M-O-T-T, who died in 1955, which is the middle of 20th century, but he born in 1965, so almost half a century in the 19th century, prior to the Great War of 1914. He was an American Methodist evangelist, long-serving or presiding leader of Young Men's Christian Association, which we know today as YMCA. The second person who is considered also in the literature as the father of the idea of ecumenical unity is a French priest, Father Paul Couturier, who died in 1953, but he was only about 2 decades in the 19th century, born in 1881. So this phenomena of the ecumenical unity, it was kind of born in the middle 19th century and then toward the end. The idea received quite a push and introduced it to the world audience in 1910 at the Edinburgh Missionary Conference. This is Edinburgh in Scotland. This conference lasted 10 days, and it was exclusively organized and carried out by the Protestants, by the Protestant churches. The idea of ecumenical unity also has roots among the Protestant missionaries of the late 19th century, as they were far away from their homes in different parts of the world, but out there they were nearby, so to speak. Often, many of them would ask each other for help, and they will cooperate in trying to resolve issues that they encountered. This certain John Mott is also, you should probably notice him. He was, all his life, he was involved in international missionary movements. For that work, and this is interesting to know, he received, in 1946, he received Nobel Prize for Peace. So, Seventh-day Adventists had 3 individuals, 3 delegates at the Edinburgh Missionary Conference in 1910. And that's Elder Spicer, Elder Conradi, and Fitzgerald. They participated in discussion at that conference. However, toward the end of the conference, the delegates and people, members of that conference, they came up with the idea that in order to complete in a shorter possible time spreading the gospel throughout the world, they came up with the idea that the best thing would be to divide the world into certain geographical divisions, and each denomination should take one of those regions. Thank God our delegates refused to participate in that process. Obviously, we Seventh-day Adventists believe we cannot take a responsibility of only one geographical region. We believe in bringing the gospel to the entire world. The Seventh-day Adventist Church, the next great event which brought the idea of ecumenical unity happened in the 20th century by an organization known to us as World Council of Churches, which was created in 1948. By doing this, the idea of ecumenical unity received a central platform, administrative, and where certain centralization. You have institution now which is going to provide for the rest of the Christianity certain ideas, guidelines, print literature, and so on. And then the next big event, of which I could talk to you a lot, is the Second Vatican Council, which took place in 1962 to 1965. The idea of ecumenical unity, by the way, the Catholic Church was not interested in ecumenical unity at the time of the Edinburgh Missionary Conference. And the leadership of the Catholic organization, we're talking about Roman Curia, they were not interested into ecumenical unity until the Second Vatican Council. Now, at the Second Vatican Council, the idea of ecumenical unity became even more popularized, And since that event until these days, what came out of the Second Vatican Council and what it came out is the so-called progressive theology, sometimes known as, and it used to be, there is another term used, emergent theology, which was used at the beginning of the 21st century, but by now, few people hardly talk about emergent church. You probably heard of the emergent church. And today, basically, it is known as that is how the people who were promoting these changes that took place at the Second Vatican Council called themselves as progressive theologians. And so today you probably hear in the news that in all realms of life, politics, business, social, academia, a lot of people identify as progressives. It's a very popular term to use in these days. I have even heard that some Seventh-day Adventists see themselves as progressive Christians. And I like to attribute that to the fact that it is based on they are not informed, but they like the term. But that's a topic for another meeting, if I can come and explain to you what is the final points of that. It is a dangerous idea, that's what I can tell you. So why study, why talk about ecumenism? Well, because we don't belong there. How can I claim that? I'm going to give you today several reasons why I believe that we, and not only I, but there are people, and I will point out to you who they are, and what's happening here is we do not belong there. When Jesus was arrested, just hours before his arrest, he prayed a prayer to his Father. And that is recorded in chapter 17 of the Gospel of John. And we just heard 4 verses from chapter 17, verses 20 to 23. And if you remember without me reading the text again, and I hope you paid attention to the scripture reading that was given to us just a few minutes ago, because we don't have much time, and I'm aware that you probably need to go home for lunch. These 4 verses are most often used by the promoters and advocates of the ecumenical unity. As Jesus was praying to the Father, he prays to the Father for his disciples and all those who hear the message from his disciples. That means all generations in the future, including us, that all of us should be one. And that means to be united. And Jesus says that he prays to the Father that we be united, we be one, as he is one with the Father. I mean, that is a huge commitment. Just think for a few seconds what it means to be one. It's a huge commitment. Are we one? Are we united to the point that we can talk about oneness, the state of oneness? However, the advocates and the promoters of the idea of economic unity are not telling you that several verses before, Jesus, as he was praying, says, I am not praying for the world. That's in verse 9. For those, he says, I am not praying for the world, but for those you have given me, for they are yours. A couple chapters earlier, in John 15, Jesus also tells his disciples, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world. I have chosen you out of the world. Clearly, Jesus is talking about two groups of people. And I believe, I know, and I agree, all human beings are children of God. No doubt about it. But yet, when God looks from heaven down on this planet, he sees two groups of people. Those who accept him, those who are willing to be with him, eventually become one with him. Those who accept Jesus and those who refuse him, reject him. See, that point needs to be made. Conclusion is, for Jesus, there are two groups of people. We should keep that in mind. Those who believe in him and those who accept him. That's one reason. Keep it in mind. Just imagine if we as an institution join the ecumenical unity and we become one with all the other churches. And footnote here, the Second Vatican Council finally came up with a document and a policy. And the Catholic, according to this new progressive theology, the ecumenical unity is not only for all Christian denominations to become one. The progressive theology basically leads people toward one ecumenical unity for all religious groups of the world. So, do we want to go that route? Second, Paul tells us in book of Romans that not all Christians are Christians. How do I get that statement? Well, in Romans 9, verse 6, second part of that verse says, not all who descended from Israel are Israel. Those are Paul's words. What does that mean? It means not all Israelites. Now Paul is talking about in ethnic terms. Israelites ethnically. Not all Israelites, ethnic Israelites, are true Israelite. Now he's talking about that experience that Jacob experienced, those who believe in the Messiah and so on, and those who believe in Jesus, that he is the Messiah. So that is what Paul is talking about. So we can also take that verse should lead us to a conclusion, to recognize that when we speak about ecumenical unity of all Christians, do we want to unite with those who are Christians by name but not Christians who are real Christians? And only God decides who they are, but the question is, do we want to go that direction? My answer is no. We should also bring with the issue of apostasy. I teach church history, and when I was asked to do so by the university, because I took classes in church history from former late Samuel Bakioki, and but he passed away, and so now I have to find the textbook for my classes. So I went into and acquired all the different textbooks published by different publishers to find out which textbook is the best for my students. And I discovered one thing, that all of the textbooks are written by Christians, non-Seventh-day Adventists. And you can imagine how they write and present church history. Not one author or historian of church history who is teaching that subject, not one of them ever talks and mentions apostasy of the church. Well, it's natural. What do you expect? If any historian who is studying church history comes to a point to conclude, say, wait a minute, this Christian church apostatized to a large degree, or to any degree. Put yourself in their position. If an author would recognize that the church he attends and he writes about apostatized, the question would be, then why are you staying in that apostasy? Okay, so we have to, the question, what I'm suggesting here is that Christian world outside of the Seventh-day Adventist institution has apostatized. And we can even say that some of us who are still members of this institution have apostatized. Remember what Paul says, not every descendant of the Seventh-day Adventist families is a Seventh-day Adventist. That's a reality of life. So, the fourth reason is, when Jesus talked to his disciples, he told them at one time, you are the salt of the world. What does that mean? Pardon me? Yeah, we are a flavor, we are a good taste. But what is the relationship with the rest of the world? The rest of the world, unfortunately, does not recognize that it is because of the people of God who exist on this planet, they themselves are still alive. We have history. When it comes to the point, like it did come in the past, at one point God looked down and he noticed that there is no one except one man. We're talking about Noah. This world, as you watch what is happening, it seems like, and it's not only that it seems, actually it is. I'm a historian. I study and read about history of business, history of religion, history of ideas, of military or wars, of everything that goes on in human life. It seems like evil is spreading in all realms of life. We are moving toward that point where when God looks and he will see that this is dangerous point, that fewer and fewer people are willing to turn to him. And then he'll come. He'll say, one day he'll say, it's enough. That's what the scripture tells us. There is a time, it's coming. Jesus will stop being a mediator. And he will stop wearing the robes of the high priest and take the robes of king. That's coming, whether you and I like it. So, do you want salt to disappear? We must remain salt. If we unite, we are going to lose that. God also said, you are the light of the world. What does that mean? What do lighthouses serve? What's the purpose of lighthouses? I mean, provide certain direction in darkness. So, this point takes me to the following. We know that our responsibility, and we claim that as an institution, as an organization, we claim that we are to spread three angels' message. Is that correct? Do you believe in that? I do. But the three angels' message is connected with the fourth angel. And what is the fourth angel doing? The message of the fourth angel is, my people, my people. That means his people. And he knows who his people are. And I'm not talking community people, I'm talking individuals who do make God's people. When he says, come out of Babylon, and I believe that we are already at that time. Our world is, and I am involved in this study of ideas and movements and all of that, ideologies and so on. We are told that the last days, the troubled days, troublesome days will be. And the troubles will be like never before in human history. What does that mean? I don't think that it talks only about physical pain. It is even more than that. And it's more difficult to kind of differentiate, to find yourself, to orient yourself, and remain faithful. We are talking about knowledge. Think about, some of you heard of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will fool many of us. We must know the scriptures, know what the issues are, and hold unto the teachings of Jesus. We are lucky. We have the spirit of prophecy. after 2,000 years of apostasy, I believe that God sent a prophet. Looking at the history of 2,000 years of apostasy and what was happening, and I can talk to you about the Middle Ages for a long time, what was happening. I believe, and eventually I believe I have to sit down and put together an article and publish, let others know. Maybe that's another sermon or another talk. A person like Ellen White was necessary in 19th century, which coincides with prophetic talk about 1844. There was a necessity for a prophet, a person through whom God will directly talk in order to put together Christians who are seeking the truth. But given the condition of intellectual world of the 19th century, where science became the God of the modern times, if God just simply left our pioneers on their own, without Ellen White, I don't think that they will ever be able to come together, finally crystallize the teachings and take the positions that they do. That's I see value. Ellen White gives us that prophetic feature. We are prophetic people. That doesn't allow us to go and listen and work with those who promote ecumenical unity. Next item. There is a literature, and I'm sharing this with you. Those who promote ecumenical unity, who advocate it, they already talk among themselves. How do we achieve that? And of course, they have steps, what to do, how to approach it. Those who want to join it, what to do, how to behave, and also be together. That's in the literature. I'm not inventing it. But as you go and see, for example, if let's say we want to celebrate Christmas, so you come up with the idea and say, you know what, how about if we call down the road such and such a pastor of whatever denomination. So we will do together something, and we will celebrate Christmas or birth of Jesus and all of that. And so there are a variety of other ways that they are talking about how we can work together. And supposedly always the objective is we are working together for the betterment of this world. How can you refuse that? We all want to work together for the betterment of the world. We ourselves. I myself want to do it. But interesting thing is that when we go through this process of ecumenicalization process, what is happening is infiltration. Eventually, those who are not Adventists become part of Adventist institution. This is a danger. So that's another reason. And then I'll be done soon because I know you have to go and all of that. Out of courtesy, and we should always be fair, loving, respectful, and show courtesy to the others. Remember, we believe in the freedom of conscience. We don't believe in forcing our teachings upon others, And the same thing, we don't want to be forced to believe that we don't believe. Out of courtesy, keep one thing in mind. Every organization, every movement, every group of people, even gangsters, every group of people which is organized has certain rules of behavior. So, when it comes to ecumenical unity, the rule is, let us talk and do what unites us, and let us not talk and do what divides us. Wow. So let me tell you a story, and I'm ending with this. This happened. This is not a made-up story. This is real. On February 2, 2012, on the invitation of Professor Dennis Fortin, Dr. Michael Kinnamon, the former Secretary of the National Council of Churches, was a guest speaker at the Seventh-day Adventist Seminary at Andrews University. Since Professor Fortin, a colleague of mine, was aware of my research on the emerging church, he invited me to join a group of seminary professors and Dr. Kinnamon and him for a luncheon at the university cafeteria. I went, and I was there. During the lunch meeting, Dr. Kinnamon expressed his admiration of us, Seventh-day Adventists, admiration for our devotion to Sabbath, for our respect of the Sabbath. He expressed this sentiment several times. To me, it came to the point where I say, is he flattering us, or is he truly believes it? I believe, Fortin and him, they're good friends, so it has to be. So my conclusions of Kinnamon is, he's a fine Christian, fine gentleman, all of that. But these are his feelings. So at one point, as I'm listening to it, there's about 15 of us around the table. I came to a point and I asked, may I say something, make a comment, and ask a question? He agreed. I told him, I have no problem to come to, because his question was, are you willing to come and join the ecumenical table? That means come talk with us. So I said, I have no problem. Matter of fact, I like to, because I traveled around in those days, make speeches, talks, giving presentations on my research. So I told him, I said, I have no problem to come. You invite me, I will come. My question to you is, Dr. Kinnamon, would the people around you, your friends, would they be willing? Will they welcome me? Would they be willing to listen to what I have to say? He answered and said, well, I'm sorry to tell you, some of my friends don't want even to hear about Seventh-day Adventists. Now, that evening at 7 o'clock, Dr. Kinnamon spoke to the AU faculty and the seminary students in the seminary chapel. And I went there to listen. I was sitting in a third row, right under the pulpit, so that I already heard him during the lunchtime. I already know what he's thinking. So I wanted to sit there. I want to listen to him, what he has to say. So I was there. At one point during his, that evening he spoke at the faculty. The chapel was packed, my friends. The balcony down, some people were even standing on the side along the wall. Somewhere in the middle of his talk, he asked the audience, would you be willing to join ecumenical table and teach us how to honor the Sabbath? The entire audience responded, yes. I could watch him. He was pleased to hear that. Having been pleasantly surprised, he continued, and after a couple more sentences, he stopped and he added, I have one more question. Would you make the teaching us how to honor the Sabbath a primary issue? And which day is the Sabbath secondary? Thank God. The audience responded with loud, no. I was watching him and said, how will he react now? He just looked down. For about 2-3 seconds, he didn't say anything, as I'm doing it now, making pauses. And he said, in a very resigning voice, he says, well, in that case, you do not belong at the ecumenical table. There is no need for me to talk further. It's not me who is saying we don't belong there. Even people like him, he had courage and honesty to say that. May God help us to remain faithful. This question of ecumenical unity has been around for several decades. And it's more and more, and I do read and follow what's going on throughout the world. Unfortunately, there are some of my Adventist friends who are advocates and promoters. And I hope they hear me if they ever listen to this streaming and this sermon. This is the first time that I'm making these statements publicly. So may God help you, help me, and those young people who just got baptized. Remember, this is the church where you need to stay. Your baptism reminded me of my baptism in former Yugoslavia. I was 16 at that time. And the Fustes family, you named your son Tito, I don't know why. The president of Yugoslavia's name was Tito. I hope you did not name him after Yugoslav Tito.